Recording, and we're live for the 22nd session of the Zoom garden plot.
Academy Awards.
We must be hitting our 1-year anniversary. Does anyone know the first time we did this? I'm pretty sure we're 1 year, we're past 1 year. Maybe this is the 1-year anniversary year, but it's been a very successful group. So, and we're on session number 22. We have garden updates from people. We have question and answers. Oh, let's see. Very good. Usually what we're going to do is we're going to start out with the question and answers. A lot of people send in pictures of their gardens, but not everyone was really giving a garden update. They were sort of, wanted to ask questions. So let's see. So Bill, why don't we start out? Do you want to just go ahead and talk about, what's going on in your garden this week? And I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and you're on mute, Bill.
Okay, I'm going to mention some things that may be useful, particularly if you're new at gardening. If you're an old gardener, have done it for a long time, you can ignore some of this. But the first thing I want to talk about is the weather. The last spring frost is typically May 15th. So the weather that we're seeing now is actually quite typical. It gets down almost to frost some nights, or maybe it does get to frost, and then it's going to be 85 degrees tomorrow or whatever, or the next day. And so anyway, it's up and down. So you should not put out your warm crops until the weather settles down, and it's typically 50 degrees at night and no colder. So you can look at the long-term 10-day forecast, and if every day says no colder than 50 degrees, then you're probably okay to put out your warm weather stuff. You can put it out with protection if you want. So then you're still taking a little risk when you do that, but you can do that. Now, warm weather crops I just mentioned includes things like tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, zucchini, butternuts, cucumber, melons. And these are usually put outside as plants, not as seeds. So if you're planning to use any of those, you either should be growing them now, they should be a certain size, in a protected place, obviously, hopefully a greenhouse or a south window, or you need to buy them from a place soon, within the next 2 weeks. Now, so I'm growing all of these in my greenhouse. They're in different stages of growth. Some of them are pretty big. My zucchini is probably 2 feet across right now. I'm going to actually put it in an outdoor greenhouse probably the next day or two. As you put things out, whether you buy them or whether you grow them yourselves, you do need to make sure that they're hardened off. Now, for you people that have done this before, you know what that means, but I'm going to just mention it. Generally, you get the plants used to outdoor life. They're used to indoor life, right? They're in a greenhouse or inside. And you put them out a short amount of time the first day, and then each day you increase the time. And by the end of the week, they are hardened off. They are ready to be put outside full time. Okay, so that's called hardening off. And if you were to put a plant out directly without hardening it off, it certainly would be set back, but it might even die on you. So you don't want to do that. Now, when you buy something from a greenhouse, you should ask them whether or not the plants have been hardened off, because if they have, you could probably put them out soon. But if they're not, you're going to have to go through the hardening off process. The other thing in your garden, your cool weather crops should be out there already. Things like brassicas, lettuce, spinach, chard, beets, radishes, carrots. They can take cool weather. They can even take a light frost. So in the last couple of weeks, you should have been doing that, and they should be growing at this point. Now, brassicas should be put out as plants. So if you don't have them now and you want to put them out, it's still fine to put them out. You should buy them as plants from a nursery somewhere. When I put them out, I have a certain procedure that I follow. I have the bed, I mark the distances that I want to put them. I water them first, I dig holes, I add fertilizer and mix it up in the hole. And then I put the plant in, I put the soil in. I also wrap the stem of the plant with some newspaper. And the reason for that is cutworms like new plants. And so by protecting them, either a little cardboard thing or just newspaper, I find works just fine. Plus it gives the stem some support. It, keeps it upright. So that's desirable. So that's basically it. Beans and corn, I usually put out as seeds, and that will happen in about a week or two when it gets warm. I don't put them out as plants usually. And finally, the other thing I'm doing is staking peas. The peas are about 8 to 12 inches tall right now. They need stakes, so we're putting some stakes and cord and on both sides of each row to keep them upright. So when the winds blow, they don't get knocked over and they can climb up on something. So that's pretty much it in terms of what I'm doing right now. And
Thank you, Bill. Just one question. What fertilizer do you use, or do you have a special one?
Well, okay. I use about a teaspoon of blood meal, a teaspoon of bone meal, and then a teaspoon of green sand. And those are the three things I add to each hole when I plant a plant out. And that's true for cool weather crops, warm weather crops. And then sometimes I will take wood ashes and sprinkle it around, not in the hole, but I sprinkle it on top after I've watered. And that's just to keep insects away. And that will go into the ground and be used as a mineral for the plant as well. So it's just sort of some extra protection, sort of like magic powder or something. So anyway, that's
Thank
about
you.
it.
Well, that's very helpful. Thank you. I know people get very excited when it's like 85 degrees.
I know.
You run out and then you're like, oh.
They're going to run to the nursery and start buying things, right? And they're going to put them out right away. And it's going to be a real mistake because already next week it's going to be down in the low 40s. So not good for the warm weather crops.
Bill, just if I may ask, what do you use? What is the green sand for? What does that do?
The green sand has phosphorus and potassium in it. And it's sort of just a mineral. The bone meal also has similar phosphorus, but it's a natural, from a natural rock, and it's a powder. And it's supposed to be helpful for, to meet the plant's mineral needs.
Awesome,
So,
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody puts it in, but it's recommended in a number of places that it helps the plant. You can buy it just in a bag at the nurseries.
Try that, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Bill before we go on to the next slide? Okay, well, let's, I'm going to go on to a question. I say the slide says questions, but this is Pat DeBruhl sent in these pictures today. And Pat, do you want to just explain what's going on in these pictures and what your question is? Are you on mute there?
Yeah. No, I just wondered, when you said to put radishes in, I did, and they came up. I was really surprised. It's the first time I've ever put seeds in so early, and a row of lettuce. And this is a different sort of lettuce that somebody gave me, these very nice seeds. And I just have these cloches that I put over when it got cold, and it seems to be doing okay. But I just wondered, I think you mentioned that you should either thin out or dig in the radishes. I'm not sure exactly what you said, because obviously they're thick, right? So that was my question.
Okay, well, I'm thinking probably other people could answer this question better than I can, but I would never dig radishes in. I don't think that they're a big nitrogen fixer like the beans are, or like the Canadian field peas. I planted some of those last autumn, and this year I'm going to plant a lot more, because they grew all winter and they're here, and they're not making great peas, but they're making great leaves that we can throw in our stir fries, which is really like. And I would suggest the same thing for your radishes, that you thin them out, wash out whatever comes out, and just throw the whole thing in your stir fry, leaf, root, and everything. It's a sort of food, we often say this at our house. We mention, you're not going to get food like this in a restaurant, which sort of cuts both ways. But in the case of, like radish thinnings, it's just an interesting flavor and it's good for you, and enjoy it.
Well, you know what? Before you just reminded me, last year, on when we took that Dirt Magazine garden tour, someone had radish sprouts or something. It was very, it was like delicious. I don't know. I think it was called radish sprouts. Does anyone know about that? Like, it was very tasty. It had like a little bit of the heat of a radish, but it was, much more palatable. But yeah, I was interested in that. I don't know how they got that. I was hoping someone here knew about it. No?
Well, you sprout the seeds. It's nothing that actually goes in the garden. It's just, the whole sprouting process.
Yeah, I guess so. But it seemed bigger. Yeah, it seemed bigger than like when you go home and you have those microgreens, right? It was just
right. Because I've sprouted radish in the house, but I do it just like any other sprouts.
Yeah, it was very tasty.
Yeah, they're delicious. Yeah,
thank you.
Sure.
So Melissa sent us 2 sets of pictures. I think these are the initial pictures of what her raised bed looked like. And when I looked at this, the one thing I thought was, so this is the community garden that you'll be participating, right? The one thing I thought was, could they have covered the dirt? Could they have put straw or leaves or something on there? Or maybe even something that would bring the chickens over a little bit more frequently to lend their special blessings to the soil.
Yeah, well, that day that I was there, the chickens and the roosters were out, and I was just sort of going, and I was doing some weeding and just sort of checking out and helping with the irrigation, because I think I mentioned the last time someone donated an irrigation system, and so we were just putting holes so that they could just come in and install whatever they needed to install. So yeah, so that was the plot that they gave me. Chickens were out. The rooster was a little aggressive. But other than that, I survived a slight rooster attack. And so that's what it looked like. And then the second set of pictures I sent.
And just before we go on, which part of this will you be gardening this summer?
So this whole plot. So the whole picture is my whole space. It's a 4x8, 4x10.
I mean, it looks like it goes way down to here, but it's.
Yep, that's exactly it.
That's only 8 feet, because each one of these is like 1.5 feet. It looks to me like it must be.
It might be a 10, might be a 4x10 maybe.
Okay.
It's a lot for me, for first time gardener. A little overwhelmed, but I'm okay.
Okay.
And so then Saturday, I went to Adam's and of course got a little out of control, and I bought more than enough lettuce, more than enough broccoli. And so I planted, so I put, like Adam sells the compost with soil in like the brown bag. It's like organic and stuff. So I bought a bag for each section and I just mixed it around with the dirt and planted a lot of lettuce, as you could see. It's the only green thing my mom eats. And so if it's successful, she's going to get a lot of green things to eat. And then the broccoli, and I had Spanish onions too, but I was just so super tired. I didn't even bother putting it in. But the garden has a greenhouse, and so I just put it in the greenhouse. And so that's my first venture.
Well, you look like you were overwhelmed and you managed to fill it up pretty quick.
And actually that was 25 lettuce plants, and I bought like a whole pack from Adams, completely not realizing $75 worth, and needless to say. And so I think I had probably another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 16 more plants that I
Mm.
just gave to my friend who also does an outdoor garden, and you know, she has chickens, and so she gave me a dozen eggs and I gave her lots of leftovers. So
And now enjoy enjoy the lettuce, because right, they're good, but once it gets once it gets too much direct sun or heat,
right.
it'll bolt pretty quickly. And
Yeah.
do they let those
So-
chickens just wander around all like?
Sometimes they do. When I went there this past Saturday, they were, you know, locked up in their cages and stuff. Because it was actually a local little group of kids that were there with someone else who works at the armory, learning about, you know, honeybees and strawberries, and they were walking around. So, so I guess during the day, you know, they do some small groups with some kids and the parents from the community. But yeah, no, they were put away. They were put away.
Yeah, because right, chickens are good, but not to help you weed. But if you have stuff in there, they'll pick it
Yeah,
right
yeah.
up.
Well, I put up a fencing around it. I'm not happy with the fencing. So I'm just gonna redo it this week, but everybody has their stuff fenced off, and you know, I think there's probably just a handful. They actually didn't fill up the garden like the plots like they normally do, primarily because of COVID. More than half of the people had relocated, so they left. And another small percentage decided that they weren't going to come back and garden, because they primarily did container gardening from home. So this year, there's probably maybe about 15 or 20 of us. And what they did was they're going to do a lot more gardening, because they work in collaboration with the Newburgh. The Downing Park has a urban farm, Newburgh Urban Farm, and so they'll exchange food and stuff like that, and give food to the food pantries and stuff. So and I know this year they're experimenting with potatoes and a bunch of other different crops, and so I think this year, since it's a lot quieter, I guess they're just going to do a lot more, a lot more different things that they've never done before. So
And that's very nice. Now, as Michael mentioned, I personally like to put some type of mulch,
mhm.
not to leave the soil all bare like that.
Okay. Yeah, I get
I
that.
like straw, but there's many things you could use, but I would definitely recommend,
Covering it up.
yeah, naked soil gets
Okay.
And
dried out very fast.
can I make a suggestion, Melissa?
Sure.
You see these cement blocks over here?
Yes.
Each one of those is a planter.
Yes.
We remade our beds because when we first moved in, we took some 2x4s out of the walls,
Mhm.
they were from 1953, and those worked for about 5 years for making raised beds. But when the wood started dissolving, we replaced them with these. And each one of those, you could be planting radishes, chard, beets,
Yeah.
carrots, all sorts of
Mhm.
things. So don't,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm definitely gonna do that as well. I was
Yeah.
gonna do some like wildflowers and little things for the
Good.
butterflies and stuff. So yeah. So I'm definitely gonna utilize the cement blocks as well.
And is that something like a trellis in the backside? So you could actually,
Yeah, the person who had the plot before me had built that, so I just left it because I'm not gonna try to recreate the wheel. It's already there. So
right,
so I'll use it.
very good.
Mhm.
Let's see, who's
So
next? Oh,
kudos to the hardcore gardeners. It's a lot of work. I knew it was, but until you physically do it, it's like a whole nother ball game. So Tylenol and I are best of friends.
Good exercise.
I'm hoping to be very slim and trim this summer. So yes.
Leslie, what's going on in your Keyhole garden here?
Well, I just got the beds ready, and I actually, after I took the picture, I put some cool crops in, but the center is the Keyhole. So on the top, you can just see I have coconut core over, but I have cardboard and packing paper, the brown packing paper, then vegetable scraps, and then more cardboard. And you keep making the layers like you would do a regular composter. And then I put the coconut on top because I wasn't sure, okay, are the squirrels gonna try and get in there? It's like I have a tumbler composter. I've never had compost just like out and exposed. So you can see on the right, I covered it with some landscape cloth. And I'll see, you know, like if the critters try and get in there, but I have a fence around the area because the deer were like eating everything other summers, and to see if it's a problem. But this is a little box that goes all the way down to the bottom of the planter. And I have it wrapped in burlap and then landscape cloth, so that as the materials decompose, and I water it or it rains, it leaches out into the bed itself. So then there's no need to then keep adding compost. What's here is compost on top of the soil that I have in it. This what you see exposed around is compost. But that is the first time I'm trying it. But it's supposed to be the kind of thing where you continually fill it up like a composter, this little center section, and it continually feeds your vegetables all season.
Very interesting.
So
How deep is that? How deep is your?
That's about 3 feet high.
Plant. So that's an actual planter.
Yeah, it's like I couldn't get far enough away. I figured if I stood further back, you'd see the height of it, but I wanted you to be able to see the composter in the middle. So I just took the top view, but it's a raised bed. And you know, the bottom, of course, is empty. The bottom, I just have cardboard on top of the earth. And then I started adding the topsoil and compost and everything and mix it up. And then this center is, and again, the reason for the burlap, you can see it's the kind of brown thing, and then the black is the landscape fabric, so that when I filled it up with the soil wouldn't fall in there. And also when I put the vegetables in the center section, they wouldn't fall out like whole pieces of vegetable into the bed. So they stay that way. And actually, when I first set it up, I went back out about 4 days later and it had gone down about 6 inches. So I just added more eggshells and, you know, broccoli pieces and just vegetable scraps and more cardboard, and just kept layering it. So, you know, it's alternating green and brown. So,
Leslie, well, you would never turn it, right? Like you turn a compost.
No, that's the thing. It doesn't turn. You just keep adding to it. And I wasn't sure how that was going to work, except once I set it up, and then in a couple of days, I realized it's already shrunk. You know, so I thought, okay, I can see why there's no reason to turn. And I guess I really have to be very diligent about doing the layers. It's 6 inches of green, 6 inches of brown. You actually start with the brown and then alternate. So, you know, I'll see what happens, because the other beds, I have a rolling composter that I'm always adding things to. Then I'll take the compost out and put that on the beds. This one's not supposed to need it, because the nutrients are going to be coming out through the burlap and the landscape fabric into the bed itself. So I like the idea of it. I'll see this summer how well it works.
Leslie, do you add worms to this?
No, because I thought that, oh, okay, now once I do this, then I have to add worms. It's like, no. Right. And like I said, I was like not really sure, but the fact that it's already gone down several inches, right. I realized, okay, it doesn't need the worms.
Interesting.
Yeah. Or maybe it's very efficient if that's really, you know, all it needs.
Could it be that there are worms in there helping out?
I was wondering. I would be running around the yard picking up earthworms and throwing them in there.
Well, I mean, there could be worms in the earth itself, and you know, right. In the soil.
Yes, if you build it, they will come.
But I haven't added any. And since the bottom is open and it just has, you know, a layer of cardboard, I'm sure, you know,
right,
it'll crawl up, you know, from there too.
Right.
But I wanted to make sure it was something that the groundhogs couldn't get in, because I've been planting Brussels sprouts for 15 years. And I rarely get a full harvest because the groundhogs get it first. You
Yeah.
know, so I'm hoping that, you know, with the fence and then with this being so high off the ground that maybe it'll work.
Good. Interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
And I hope all of us are keeping that image of mind of Sarah running around her yard picking up earthworms. I just think that's a beautiful image. I'm glad you mentioned it, Sarah.
I do. I have lots of worms. And if they're on the drive or something, I have one of those big plastic bins that the Sustainable Warwick sold at one point. You remember those? The Darth Vader bins. So I pick up worms and I throw them in there all the time.
Now, see, you're good because I'm great with all things in the garden, but when it comes to picking up the worms, I'll get them with the shovel, like scoop them up that way. But I was like, I don't want to touch them, which seems kind of silly, but ooh. I grew up in Queens, you know, we don't touch worms.
Oh, so this is one thing that we had discussed in an earlier video, in an earlier session, and I wanted to get back to it because I asked about my figs, which we had stored over the winter in these brilliant, it was just a brilliant idea to build a straw bale house around these fig plants because, you know, figs are Mediterranean plants. They like warm weather, and you have to do all sorts of things to get them to survive here. Well, what's happened was, and we were even suggested to leave them on as late as possible because, you know, the Mediterranean weather. Well, what's happened was the voles also liked the straw bale house. They loved it.
When you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've heard that before. And so you can see that they did now I can say though, in previous years, the whole plant died back to the ground. If we did nothing to protect that plant from the cold, the whole thing would die back to the roots. It would still come out. It would still reach 4 or 5 feet high. We might or might not get figs. So what I've heard is, you know, you get the roots more and more established. You try to preserve as much of the plant above ground as you can, and then over time you'll start getting more and more figs. So and the other thing was I think it was the voles had sort of, in a nesting manner, had sort of pulled more straw down amongst the plants, and they were starting to get mildewy and whatnot. And so at that point it was like, nah, none of this keeping it warm. We just got to get it cleared out. And then when we were taking it apart, we could see the voles scampering everywhere. And I also have noticed there's this one spot in my backyard where we have this huge amount of sunchokes that grow, but when we go to dig them up, there's hardly any there. Now I know why. I'd always thought it was the squirrels, but now it's the voles. And the other thing I know why I understand now is a neighborhood calico cat loves to hang out in that very same spot. These things all go together, right? So anyway, I learned a lot from this, and I also have a lot of extra straw bales around. Then the other thing I wanted to bring up is this, and this is a question for everybody. So this is a huge overgrown gooseberry plant. And, and this is, you know, I was saying that we have our thing. This is a King Henry plant that's growing in one of my planters, one of the things. That's a perennial. It came back itself this year.
Wow.
We'll start, I think I have to let it go this year, but I have some somewhere else that we'll be eating soon. But I wanted to say a couple things about this. This picture isn't quite right. Bill visited me the other day and gave some hints about pruning. And when I looked it up, what they said is you want to prune them maybe over the winter or actually fairly early in spring. And for a gooseberry to keep producing well, you actually need to prune it every year. And in one of our earlier sessions, I think it was Gail, showed us her currants that she had pruned, and then she sort of saved them, and they were like growing roots. And like this gooseberry is a cousin of that currant plant. And so I'm going to be pruning it, and those, whatever I cut, could very easily become a plant. And so I'm wondering if there's anyone on the Zoom session tonight who wants to stop over sometime and prune a little bit more off my plant and take it home and root it and start planting it. If you'd like to do that, just contact me and let me know. There's Chad. He's always saying he wants
everything.
One thing I want to ask you, Michael, about your figs, because I have 2 fig trees that I have in pots, and I keep them indoors in the winter, and then take them out on the deck in the summer.
Bless
And
you.
I haven't, this year I wanted to take them out and actually plant them in the yard. But, and I get figs actually, having them under sun lamps in the house, as long as they get their summer months outside. But how do you protect these during the summer? Like, this is what happened over the winter. But do you find when you have them outside in the summer, do you have groundhogs? I think they're the cousins to the voles, but do they bother these trees?
We have a deer fence, and when they put in our deer fence, they also put in the groundhog protection fence. It's basically chicken wire that starts at ground level. It goes down a foot and out a foot. So I've seen them. I've seen places where groundhogs have tried to dig, and this frustrates them. They, they'll dig down to it, and so we have not had groundhogs come inside our deer fence.
We on?
That's the sound of knocking on wood.
Michael?
Yeah.
I just got something from Gurney's, and I just found this little folder here about gooseberries. And it says, is that in full sun or is that in part shade?
That's actually that particular one is part shade. If you look over here, there's actually another one that's in more sun. And back outside our deer fence, we have one planted that's inside the 4-foot fence that I've talked about before. It's like a cylinder 4-foot fence, and the groundhogs have not gone after it. So anyway, what's your question, Mary?
So, well, it just says that prune in spring after flowering. Fruit is produced on older wood. In the fall, remove any wood more than 3 years old. So you let it, I guess, produce for 3 years, and then you cut the old wood off. I always have trouble telling the old wood from the other wood, but I don't know on things like this, but that's what it says for gooseberries.
After it flowers, that's good. So that
After
means
it
we're on
flowers.
time. I like that because that means we're
Doesn't
still
say
on
how much
time
to
this
prune
year.
it. Yeah, it doesn't say how much to prune it back though. So, sorry, let me see if I can find another one. What have you done? What have you done with it before, Michael? Or have you just let it grow?
There's certain things I leave up to Xiaotong. She does most of our pruning. I do want to share, there was a radio show that I like to listen to in the past, You Bet Your Garden. They're not making that radio show anymore, but I remember he used to say the first rule of pruning, if you don't know what you're doing, stop. And,
Well,
and
okay.
I've taken this rule to heart, and so my stuff tends to be unruly, growing in sort of unruly ways around here.
Mhm. Well, there are certain things, when we bring you those raspberries, there are certain things you cannot stop. So no matter how much you prune them.
Now that's my style of plant.
Okay, well, wait till you see them. Okay.
Very good. I'm going to go on to the next question, but if you find more about that, Mary, please let us know.
One thing I want to try with the figs then is I have a fence like that that goes down and out a foot around my plants and the shed. I don't have it around my yard. And so the groundhogs have gone underneath the fence I have there that goes down a foot, but not out a foot. So they've come under that way. So I'll put just around the fig trees when I take them out this summer. I'll do the same thing with the fence down and out and hope that protects them. Because I've been afraid to take them out, you know.
Actually, I'm sorry, I dropped that question. You know, oh gosh, I can't remember her name. There's a woman who's a master gardener who lives on Onderdonk Road, and she has a fig plant that she wheels it into her garage in the winter. So it's not like it's, you know, and I think it needs a little bit cool, but not cold. And so in the garage, it's like better than outside, and it's not inside, so it's not getting sun. And I could be wrong about that, but her fig tree produces. Maybe she just has a really big pot, and you know, she gets somebody to help her wheel it back and forth, you know, once a year.
Well, I get figs from the plants that I put out on the deck and then bring back in the sunroom. It's just that I would like it to be in the yard, you know, really doing its thing. So I've just been hesitant because I know that those groundhogs just love to eat everything, you know, and with the apple tree, they go out and they get drunk off the apples, you know, and they start running around in circles. But so I was thinking the figs might be the same kind of thing for them. But and since the figs have a more narrow stalk or a trunk, you know, they can do more damage. The apple tree, they can't really do anything to. But I'll try, you know, the fence down and out because it's worked around the shed in my vegetable garden. So I can see about that.
Very good. You know, we're a little bit past halfway. I really like our custom of the shimmy in place. If you don't want to shimmy on camera, you're welcome to step off camera or turn your camera off. We're just stand up and shimmy in place for a minute, move around for a minute or two. It's hard on the body to sit down for a whole hour. And we'll see you back here in 1 minute.
Okay. I didn't lift my weights today. I didn't. No, I did not. Did I put my things in the windows tonight?
Yeah, it should be cold. It's gonna be 37. But that's, I think we just use a little heat for tomorrow. After that, we don't need it. We need the air conditioning.
Oh, I could put this down.
Yeah, you can put that down.
So one more time, I guess.
During this interlude, I'm going to share one thing. Maybe I should save this for the maybe I should save for the announcement time. But anyway, we have a new flyer about the Zoom garden plot. And if you go to a garden shop and they don't have it, let me know and we can try to work it out to get one there. It mentions sustainable Warwick and grow local Greenwood Lake. We've got them posted down at Pennings and at the Greenwood Lake Garden Center. And we like having new members. We don't need too many. We not just the right number, but still we want people to know we're here and for people to have the chance to share. And so,
Michael,
yes.
did you put those posters over at the library?
Yes, one got
Okay.
posted at the library.
Okay. I go to Corwin's, but they're really not letting people inside very much anymore. You know, when you want to buy something, you sort of stand outside and hand them your purchase. So I don't know if they would work.
Pennings took a couple. They
good.
put one up inside and one outside.
No, I was saying Corwin's. I go over to Corwin's, but I don't know if they have any place to post something there. Next time I go over, I'll ask.
Where is Corwin's?
Corwin's is on Galloway. You know, they're a
Oh, I know
florist, but they're a nice place to pick up. I buy a lot of flowers there, and they have some vegetables early in the season also.
Okay, good. Good to know. Chad, what did you want to tell us about the Greenwood Lake Commonplace Community Garden?
Common ground.
Common ground.
No, it's very exciting. a lot of good stuff going on. A lot of people on this call were there. I got a picture of Sylvia, see her working, shoveling. So, you know, since we got a relatively late start to get the okay on all this stuff, we're still building our garden, and I'm trying to stay patient by that. You know, I might plant some peas just to get them in there. We thanks to Sustainable Warwick and Home Depot, we're going to get really good fencing, but we need to wait for that a little bit longer so we don't have trouble with voles and ground. You know, again, Greenwood Lake is not like Warwick, but we do, you know, I'm sure some critter will come along and eat up what we plant. So right now we're still building out the beds. We made a walking path, and right next we'll be making fencing. And then, you know, we're just taking it step by step, and you know, we still will hopefully have a really nice growing season. Right now we have really good work days. A lot of people showing up. I think people are just anxious, you know, looking forward to getting some sunshine and doing some nice physical labor. And yeah, it's coming along very nicely. I have that big bag of leaves in the back I'm saving for lots of fun stuff. And I actually went Sunday to what's it called? Black Creek Farm. Where is it? What part of New York? It's I always forget the name. Hold on. Eric Schellenberg is very
It's in
helpful.
Highland?
Highland, New York.
Highland?
Yes. I keep on forgetting the name. But yeah, he was great. I went there, and you know, he gave me a lot of cutting. I got pawpaw, false indigo, black currants. I can never say the word right. Currant or currants. What else? Just a lot of really interesting stuff that you can't always find, that hopefully is going to be on the other side. I'm blanking out. What else? So plum tree, like small, like kind of cherry plums, persimmons. So, you know, hopefully we'll have a lot of really interesting stuff, and that'll be in the public area. But put it in pots and kind of keep them moist, and hopefully they'll be ready to go, because then we have to clear out the left side. We have a lot of very invasive type of weeds that spread over the years, so we're just going to clear that out. But it's exciting. You know, I'm happy. You know, we're really starting the garden from this beginning, so people are really getting to see what it takes. And then, as like Melissa said, now we got to fill all those beds in, which is what I'm trying to do now. You know, just like I have the same, Sarah used that same one from Mother Earth, the garden planner. So I'm trying to put those little plants in there, you know, filling out all the beds, hopefully in the best way possible. That's my
Looks
update.
good. Looks good.
Chad, have you grown persimmons before? I have a little seedling, but I've never tried that before. Have you grown persimmon trees?
I have not. Well, yeah, just, you know, I have a very small yard. So this is in my yard. I have a peach tree and an apple tree, which get ravaged every year by squirrels, and I've yet to have anything from it. I'm trying to think of strategies this year. I really want to get stuff. And I have a question. I don't know if Michael's going to show my slide coming up about asparagus, but that's coming up. But that's from the community garden now. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. And then I guess I'll continue. There's my little, because I have a pretty small house and small yard, so I'm trying to grow as many seeds, and I don't have a lot of windows. Like I have windows, but I have no sills or anything by them, so I can't put anything to go by the windows. So I'm trying to start. Yeah, and I kind of thought we were going to get going earlier, so I have a lot of cool weather stuff that really is ready to go out. You know, broccoli and bok choy. I was very good. I got a really good bunch of bok choy. Like every seed I planted grew in bok choy, and some kale, which I seem to. Does anyone else like kale? But me, I love kale. It seems like not a lot of kale fans, but I like it.
Kale's good.
Kale chips.
In soup.
Yeah, I could eat them right off the thing. And then I was going to ask that this. I have asparagus coming up really nicely, but this is my third year, and I was reading that I should wait one more year before I actually start harvesting them, and I just wanted to get some opinion on that. If someone has a thought.
Depends on how old they were when you planted them.
Right.
Well, yeah, I got them as, babies, whatever,
They usually tell you like it's a 2-year or a 3-year or whatever, but I'll tell you, those look like they might be ready to me.
yeah, they're big. They get really big ones. They're like coming up now. They're very substantial
Mhm, mhm.
weapons.
It's a question of if you harvest too much too early, then your plant just won't be as strong for a long life. But if you take a few,
Yeah.
and I think like the third year is sort of like, yeah, you can sort of get like a half season harvest or something. So you can take some now, but just but don't be greedy.
Mhm.
Right. I said, because I've read, right, if you wait another year, it'll really benefit you in the long run. So maybe I'll take a few asparagus and then let the rest. And so you would get them early now, right? When they come up, you clip them and then.
Yes.
So I would just eat them out of the garden. They're good just like that.
Oh, there you go.
They rarely make it into the kitchen. you know?
Right. Yeah, you just want to snack on them.
Yeah,
Okay.
like clip them, and then that and the cherry tomatoes later in the season, they don't make it back to the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. All right, thank you guys.
Oh, and you were mentioning something about squirrels. Now, as we recall, a couple years ago was a mast year for the walnuts and acorns and stuff. And so last year we really had a huge squirrel population. Has everybody noticed that the squirrels aren't so numerous this year?
I thought it was just early.
No, I have walnut trees and I always have squirrels. They're the bane of my existence.
I've noticed it, Michael. Why would that be?
Well, so the walnuts and the oak trees, they do things called a mast year, where so most years they'll drop a few nuts, and that supports a certain number of squirrels and mice and whatnot. But then every few years, and it's random, it's who knows why, but through the whole countryside, they'll all drop a ton of nuts. And then they'll go a few years, and just a little bit of nuts, and then another year, it's a huge deluge of nuts. It's called a mast year when it does that, and the idea is there's more food than all those critters can eat. If they put out the same number every year, then they would maintain the population of the critters that would be eating all their seeds. So they do it sort of randomly, and who can guess when the next year is going to be? But at all events, the second, so this is 21, the fall of 2019 was a mast year. There was a lot of nuts dropped in this area. So last year we should have seen a huge squirrel population. The squirrels going nuts, which I saw. And so this year they didn't, they don't have that big store of nuts, and so the population should be much smaller this year. So keep your eyes open. Are your squirrel issues less this year than last year? That's the question.
They're at my house in the bird feeders, Michael.
Okay, so when we're doing research, if you come across any extra squirrels, send them all over to Sarah's to give the
Send them
report.
to my house. My poodle loves to chase them. There's plenty of walnuts for them.
Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, here's a question. The mighty Mado. Michelle, why don't you take over on this? I think you know more about this than I do. You set up this question and the answer.
Yeah, let me just unmute myself. Okay, I'm good. There we go. Yeah, so Gail is not here, I don't think. So she's still away on vacation. Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, right? She's abroad? Yep, you're muted, but I
don't see her on here, so I guess she's away right now.
Yeah, and she sent this question in. She mentioned that she had some friends years ago that grew the mighty Mado, and she was very impressed by it. They had a bumper harvest, and she has been trying to locate this type of plant locally. You can buy it you could buy it online, and you can't right now. I researched the heck out of this thing, in trying to find out what it was, first of all, which I'll share with you in a minute. But they're sold out everywhere. And certainly nothing locally that I could find and come back to her and report on. So basically the idea is, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Mighty Mato, is that it's a grafted tomato. So apparently it's not like a Franken vegetable, which we have to worry about. I know there's the pro gene splicing, then, the con gene splicing camps, and they, will never agree. But grafted tomatoes is something entirely different. You take the wild rootstock, which gives you good disease resistance, and then you graft onto that a regular hybrid tomato or an heirloom, whatever you want to produce. And that supposedly gives you a bumper yield plus the good disease resistance. So I did include a link there for somebody. I don't think you can cut and paste from a PowerPoint, but the website is loghouseplants.com, and any kind of tomato variety that you can think of, they will graft onto wild rootstock. And then people have gone quite crazy. A few years ago, I think it was 2015, they did ketchup and fries where they were grafting tomatoes and potatoes, and it was just the craziest thing. And it was on all the news channels, and I couldn't figure out how that worked. I didn't have the attention span to do a deep dive on that, but it certainly looked very interesting. So bottom line is, you can buy it locally. Was very popular. Gail, I think you might have a hard time finding it this year anyway.
I will say, if you're really enthused about the concept, I believe in the Johnny's catalog, you can buy the whatever tool you need to learn how to graft. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
A friend of mine does that up in East
Yeah.
Branch, New York.
Yeah, so you can pick, it's a new hobby you can pick up.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
And next we have a question from Michelle.
Michael, we can't see your screen right now. Well, we can, but it's your desktop.
Really?
Yeah, there. Oh, now it's you.
Just a second.
And I forgot what I asked, so I do need to see your screen.
Can you see it? Are you seeing
Oh,
my
now
desktop?
I can. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Has anybody grown or tasted calshots? Anybody?
Oh, I never even heard of it. What is it?
Okay, they are a delicacy from Spain. It's a specific region in Spain, and I forget now where it is. But they have a calshot festival, and they're known for their calshots, and there's a specific way of eating them, which I'll get into in a minute. But these are onions that are hilled like potatoes. My understanding is that they take a regular garden variety, for want of a better word, onion, and they plant it, and they, as it grows the green out of the top, they keep hilling it, and it eventually, the one onion, the bulb, will grow into a bunch of what you see on screen there, individual leek type of onion plants. And so they're a cross between a leek and a spring onion with a very mild flavor. I don't know if it's because of the hilling, but the idea is that you char them over a fire made of grapevines, and then you don a paper bib and you cook up this delicious buttery dipping sauce with different kinds of herbs in it and salt and really good butter, and you dip your calshot in it, and you have to eat it from the top. I mean, it's this whole ritual, and that they go crazy for in Spain. Now, I had this last year. I think we got it at Blooming Hill Farms in Blooming Grove, New York.
Blooming Hill sells them, yeah.
Yeah. Guy Jones is he's a real maverick farmer.
Yeah.
He's such an interesting fellow with such interesting culinary tastes.
Yes.
So we had our first taste of them there, and I have not seen them since. I don't know if they're just not in season yet, but I just thought maybe somebody had grown them, could give me some tips on how to start it. It just seems crazy to plant an onion and get that after hilling it.
Guy would be the best person to ask about that because he has them not every year, but most years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I've never tried growing them. And he
Yeah.
hasn't sold any seedlings. He has all sorts of other seedlings at Blooming Hill.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I haven't seen him for the cow shots. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll ask him for sure. Thank you, Leslie.
This almost reminds me of the black dirt onion eating contest. A little bit similar, not exactly the same.
Where is that?
Oh,
In Florida, isn't it?
they have it out in Pine Island.
Pine Island.
They have an onion eating contest. All I remember is I think Supervisor Sweden enters every year, and
They have an onion fest.
yeah, Onion Fest. Yeah.
Yeah, just like Saugerties has the garlic festival.
Right.
I wonder if that's a specific type of onion seed or plant you have to use to grow these.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I should ask.
It looks like some sort of scallion.
It does look
right.
like a scallion.
But it's quite a bit thicker.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the width of your thumb.
And a very different taste.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's. Oh, announcements. Oh yes, we're almost at 8:30. Gosh, it's announcement time. Before we go to announcements, does anybody have any other questions at this point?
Mm.
No? Okay. So for announcements, I guess, as we've mentioned, we'll be meeting the second and fourth Mondays of the month. For now, we're sticking to 7:30. When it gets to the point where we want to be out in the gardens, we'll move that back until 8. But we're through May, we're still at 7:30. I also want to mention, in case you, let's see. Sustainable Warwick has a big program going called the Triple Win Campaign. It's about community solar. You might ask, what does this have to do with gardening? The tie-in is that you save money on your electricity when you sign up for this, so you have more money to buy seeds. No, that's not the tie-in. If you sign up, you could also get a referral bonus for the Grow Local Greenwood Lake Community Garden. There's a lot of people don't understand community solar. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to ask. It's a good deal. You don't get rid of your energy supply company. You still have O&R. Basically, nothing changes. It's just that this is like an added layer, and you save 10% on your bill. You get a $100 sign-up bonus, and you could get $100 for Grow Local Greenwood Lake, or there are several other nonprofits around town, including the Community Center and Safe Space America, and the Family Center, Family Central, and the Humane Society. So, and there's a couple others. So I'm encouraging everyone to, if you don't understand what community solar is and you have some hesitancy, please check in with me. I'd be happy to answer questions. And if you're ready to sign up, please give the Grow Local Greenwood Lake the strong consideration for your referral bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else have any other announcements for tonight?
Well, Sylvia had a question. Is this an ideal time to grow herbs, and which one? Which ones? She's put that in the chat.
Well, there's perennial herbs and annual herbs. So your perennial herbs are, they're really like leafing out right now. They go like, a lot of them go somewhat dormant. So the sages are coming out, the thyme is greening up. I have tarragon coming up, the oregano. Those are all coming to life right now. And the annual herbs, like your basil, you should be either, if you're going to buy plants, you don't put that out until you put tomatoes out. Basil is very temperature sensitive, or you can grow basil from seed. I put parsley plants out already. Parsley can't take a cold, hard freeze, but can take some cold weather. So, I mean, the best solution is to plant a perennial herb garden, and then I add my annual herbs in with my vegetables. And I also say there's many perennial herbs you can grow in containers. I have a container garden off my deck, and I protect them in the winter. You know, they're good sized containers, and I put leaves around them and cover them. And, you know, your hardy, cold hardy herbs will survive the winter here with a little care. They're not going to live forever, but that way in the spring they're back again. So does that help?
Yes, I'm very much interested in the basil, chives, just because I enjoy cooking with those.
Right.
I wasn't sure at what point should I start after.
Right, so after May 15th, the
Okay.
basil, and chives, I think are perennial, right? Or
Put your chives, contain your chives,
Okay.
but don't let them go to seed. I let that happen one year and it wasn't pretty.
I have chives in containers and they're starting to come up now.
That's what I mean. But if I one year I just put them out in the garden and then I had chives all over the place. So that's what I mean. But if your basil, I suggest if you're going to grow from seed, start your seedlings now. It grows quickly, but it's better if you have a plant to put out when the end of May, when the weather really warms up. That way you'll have basil to harvest earlier. Or you can, buy some plants at the garden center.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you, Sarah.
Do we have any other last questions? Okay, well, thank you. Thanks once
thank you,
again.
everyone. Great, thank you so much.
It's really nice having the questioners, the answerers. It's teamwork wins. Really enjoy the garden sessions, and thanks everyone for participating.
Thank you. This is
Thank
great.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a great week,
Bye.
everyone.
Have a good night.